You ever think you've heard it all when it comes to HOA drama? Think again. Imagine waking up to an official HOA notice on your doorstep, demanding you move your boat, because of ripples. At first, it sounded absurd, like a prank. But this wasn't a joke. This small demand was about to set off a chain reaction that nobody in the neighborhood saw coming, because what the HOA didn't know was about to cost them everything. The notice from the HOA wasn't just a friendly reminder, it was written like a threat. They claimed my boat was disrupting the natural lake environment and creating unnecessary ripples that annoyed nearby homeowners. At first, I thought it was ridiculous. A boat causing ripples? That's what boats do. But the letter warned me that if I didn't remove it within 7 days, I'd face fines of $500 per day until it was gone. I laughed at first, thinking this had to be a misunderstanding. Surely, they must have mixed up properties or sent the notice to the wrong person. But the next morning, I found 3 HOA board members standing at the edge of my dock, taking pictures of my boat as if it were evidence in a crime. One of them, the HOA president, waved a clipboard at me and said, "You've been warned. We expect full compliance." Over the next few days, letters kept piling up in my mailbox, each one more aggressive than the last. Neighbors started whispering about me whenever I walked past, some clearly siding with the HOA, others avoiding me entirely. I began to feel like I'd been cast as the villain in my own community, all because of a few ripples on a lake. That's when I decided to investigate. I pulled out my property records, old deeds, and closing documents, determined to see what rights I actually had. And that's when I discovered something the HOA clearly didn't know: I owned the entire lake. When I purchased my property years ago, the lake was included in the deed, every square inch of it. Suddenly, their threats didn't intimidate me anymore. Instead of rushing to move my boat, I started documenting every trespass, every letter, every photo they took without my permission. Because what the HOA didn't realize was simple: they weren't just harassing a homeowner anymore. They were harassing the lake's legal owner. And soon, they were about to regret every single warning they'd sent. Once I confirmed that I legally owned the entire lake, everything changed. The fear, the frustration, and the stress the HOA had caused me turned into something else entirely: determination. I wasn't going to back down anymore. I contacted my attorney and handed him every single HOA notice, letter, and photo they had taken. When he read through the documents, he couldn't help but laugh. His exact words were, "They're threatening you for using your own property. This isn't just harassment, this is trespassing." We drafted a formal response to the HOA, one they wouldn't see coming. It wasn't a request. It wasn't an apology. It was a legal warning. The letter stated, in no uncertain terms, that I held full ownership rights to the lake and any further attempts to regulate, fine, or restrict my use of it would result in legal action against them. But we didn't stop there. I instructed my lawyer to file trespass notices against the HOA board members who had been stepping onto my dock and photographing my property without consent. Every time they set foot near the lake, they were entering privately owned land. The power dynamic shifted overnight. When the HOA president received my letter, he showed up at my door, red-faced and furious, demanding an explanation. I calmly handed him a copy of my deed, highlighting the section that clearly stated the lake's ownership. The look on his face was priceless, shock mixed with panic. He stammered something about community standards and fairness, but I stopped him cold. "You've been trespassing on my property, and every photo you've taken without permission is evidence. Keep pushing, and I'll see you in court." For the first time since this entire mess began, the HOA went silent. No more letters. No more warnings. No more threats. But I wasn't done yet. Their harassment had consequences, and I planned to make sure they learned that lesson the hard way. They wanted to fine me for ripples. Fine. I was about to fine them for trespass, and my fines would make theirs look like pocket change. With the HOA finally silent, I had the upper hand, and I intended to use it. My attorney and I filed formal trespass complaints against the HOA board members who had stepped onto my dock and the common areas of the lake without permission. Each documented visit, each unauthorized photo, each threatening letter, it was all carefully recorded as evidence. What started as their attempt to control me was now a growing legal case against them. The next HOA meeting was explosive. I attended, armed with my deed, legal filings, and photographic proof of their trespassing. The boardroom was packed with angry homeowners, many of whom had heard whispers about the boat dispute, but had no idea about the lake's ownership. When I stood up and laid out the facts, the room went dead silent. I explained, calmly but firmly, that the HOA had no authority over the lake. Not only did I own it, but their repeated threats, fines, and property violations amounted to harassment. I told them I was prepared to take the matter to court, and trust me, my attorney was more than ready. The HOA president tried to push back, insisting their rules applied to everyone equally. That's when I dropped the bombshell: your rules stop at my property line. And in case you forgot, the lake is my property. The gasps from the other homeowners were priceless. Suddenly, everyone realized the board had been overstepping its power, and whispers spread quickly through the room. Within a week, several residents demanded the board resign. Others threatened to sue the HOA themselves for misuse of funds and abuse of authority. The once confident HOA president now avoided me completely. Every time he drove past my house, he looked the other way. But I wasn't finished. I sent the HOA an invoice, a formal bill, for damages caused by their trespassing, harassment, and illegal surveillance. The total? More than $25,000. They had 7 days to pay or face a lawsuit. The same HOA that tried to fine me for ripples now faced fines of their own, fines they couldn't escape. The HOA thought they could bully me into submission, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. After sending my $25,000 damages invoice, I expected pushback, threats, or more intimidation tactics. Instead, I got silence. The kind of silence that comes when someone realizes they've made a serious mistake. A week passed. Then 2. Finally, a letter arrived from the HOA's attorney. I opened it cautiously, expecting another round of legal games, but instead, it was a settlement offer. They were willing to pay a large portion of my claim if I agreed not to sue them for trespassing and harassment. My attorney and I reviewed their proposal carefully. We countered, demanding full payment and a formal written apology from the HOA board for their unlawful actions. At first, they resisted. But when we provided a detailed breakdown of my evidence, photos, legal deeds, documented threats, recorded statements, and eyewitness accounts from neighbors, they realized fighting me in court would destroy them financially. By the end of the month, the HOA caved. They issued a public apology, paid me every penny I demanded, and officially removed all references to lake regulations from their community bylaws. My boat stayed exactly where it was, untouched, unbothered, and legally protected. But the fallout didn't stop there. Word of the HOA's failure spread like wildfire through the neighborhood. Residents who had once feared the board now openly questioned their authority. Several homeowners banded together and filed complaints of their own, demanding an internal audit of HOA funds and leadership practices. Within 3 months, 3 board members resigned, including the HOA president himself. For me, it wasn't just about winning. It was about setting a precedent. The HOA had tried to intimidate me with bogus rules and excessive fines, but instead, they learned a harsh lesson about picking the wrong battle. I didn't just defend my property rights, I exposed their abuse of power and showed the entire community that homeowners do have rights. Today, when I sit on my boat in the middle of my lake, the water is calm, the air is quiet, and the HOA? Completely powerless. They don't send me letters. They don't take photos. They don't even look in my direction. They know better now. So, if you've ever faced an HOA nightmare like this, don't stay silent. Document everything, know your rights, and fight back when they overstep their authority. And if you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to HOA Case Files and turn on notifications, because we have plenty more shocking battles to share. Also, tell us in the comments, has your HOA ever tried to pull something outrageous like this? Your story might just be our next case.